It seems like my mother-in-law caught wind of the fact that we'd bought a house. She called out of the blue with a shocking proposal, and on the other end of the line, I could hear my sister-in-law's laughter. My mother-in-law was excitedly suggesting that she move in with us. Does she really think her laughter goes unnoticed? Honestly, the idea of living with her, and the rest of the family, is the last thing I want. I thought Mason felt the same way, but now that they know about our new home, are they assuming we'll all live together? The thought of Mason agreeing to that fills me with dread, but I'm determined not to let them manipulate us. If this is their plan, I'll be ready to turn the tables. Reflecting on my past challenges, I'm not backing down. I am Nancy Deborah, 32 years old, and I work for a major financial corporation. Mason and I married 4 years ago, and we haven't started a family yet, not because we don't want to, but for specific reasons we both take seriously. We've agreed to focus on our careers first, striving for progress every day, and once we've established our professional lives, we'll begin building a stable environment for our future children. When the time is right, we'll revisit the idea of expanding our family. Recently, a major project I had been planning at work was a success, and I was officially promoted. My salary, which was already decent, got a nice boost. Mason didn't receive a promotion, but his raise was significant due to his tenure at the company. With both of our incomes rising, it finally felt like the perfect moment to turn our long-held dream of homeownership into reality. I approached Mason with the idea. I think it might be time for us to start thinking about getting our own place. What do you think? His response was immediate and enthusiastic. Is it time already? I could hear the excitement in his voice. I've been thinking about it too, but since I haven't been promoted yet, I wasn't sure how to bring it up. Don't worry about that, I reassured him. It's not like only one of us needs to be earning. I was thinking we could put the house in my name since I'm earning more now. Really? He asked, surprised. Well, if you're okay with it, then yes, let's do it in your name. I smiled. All right, let's move forward with that. We can check out some model homes on our next day off. Sounds great. Let's not miss this chance, he said, sharing my excitement. I felt so grateful to have him by my side. We were in sync, and moments like these reminded me that I had made the right choice. The following week, we kept our appointment to view model homes. We toured different designs and started imagining what our own home could look like. Over weekends, we began sketching simple floor plans and researching online. During a visit to a construction company, they recommended that we take an active role in designing the house, rather than leaving everything to them, so that it truly reflected our personalities. While we both loved the idea, we admitted that our knowledge of architecture was limited, but we were eager to learn. As we continued balancing this project with our work, we made steady progress. But then, just as we were getting into the rhythm of it, the doorbell rang. Thinking it was just a delivery, I opened the door, only to find my mother-in-law standing there. Mom, what brings you here so suddenly? I asked, already bracing myself for whatever surprise she had in store. I asked, surprised by her sudden visit. Without a word, my mother-in-law slipped off her shoes and made herself at home. Hearing her, Mason came out, equally surprised. Mom, what's up? He asked. Didn't Nancy tell you? She replied, looking slightly puzzled. I spoke to her about it over the phone a little while ago. Mason turned to me, confused. Maybe Nancy forgot to mention it? That's not true, Mom, I interjected quickly. It's not forgetfulness. I've just been incredibly busy with work. I'm handling both my job and the household responsibilities, so my mind's constantly buzzing with tasks. Oh, you're such a thoughtful person, Mason, she said warmly. Your late father would have been so proud of how you support Nancy. I nodded, not entirely comfortable with the compliment, but Mason smiled. Then, she pulled a travel brochure from her bag, spreading it out on the table and pointing to a page marked with a post-it note. Listen, Mason, she said with a content smile. I've always dreamed of seeing Niagara Falls. Would you take me there, please? Mason and I both stared at her, speechless, our mouths hanging open as she continued, not missing a beat. Come on, Mason, think of it as an act of filial piety, she urged. Mason, still flustered, finally managed to speak. Wait a minute, Mom, this is a bit sudden. You're springing a trip on us. Oh, you could come too, Nancy, she added casually. I was thinking of asking Anna, but if Mason's coming, we could make it a family trip. Anna? Mason asked, confused. What are you talking about? Nancy is here. I can't just take time off work, and it feels weird to finance a trip for you and my sister. That's not weird at all, his mother countered swiftly. Spending money on family is a wonderful thing. don't you think? She turned to me for support, clearly expecting me to agree. Though taken aback, I stood my ground. Spending your own money on family is fine, but imposing it on others is different. Her tone shifted immediately. What do you mean by that? Are you suggesting I'm trying to extort travel expenses from Mason? She asked, her voice laced with indignation. I tried to clarify without sounding too harsh. I didn't mean it like that, but it did seem like you were expecting us to cover the trip. Her expression darkened. That's terrible. Nancy, I had no such intention, she exclaimed, clearly upset. You're making me out to be the villain in front of Mason. I didn't mean to call you a villain, I quickly assured her, trying to ease the tension. I just wanted to clarify. I responded truthfully to her question. Okay, there's no need for excuses. My mother-in-law's eyes narrowed, her icy glare piercing through me. Why are you so heartless? You must not like me, do you? She accused. This wasn't the first time such a situation had unfolded. Whenever she visited, she always seemed to find a reason to ask for money, which she would then squander, often with Anna, Mason's sister. While the idea of supporting family sounds noble, in this case, it felt more like extortion. The dynamic shifted when Mason, out of kindness, gave them money, but I've never been comfortable with his mother or sister's constant demands. Mason once confided in me that after his father passed away, his mother and sister became incredibly selfish. His father, who had died when Mason was in high school, had managed their finances carefully, but without him, there was no one left to keep an eye on their spending. This included recklessly using up life insurance money. Anna worked part-time, earning a modest salary, which left their financial situation precarious. This, of course, was their frequent excuse for showing up at our door, claiming that life was tough or that they needed a break, subtly hinting that they needed money from Mason. Before I married Mason, it seemed he was constantly at the mercy of his mother's demands. There was a dependency on the care she provided after his father's death, but since marrying me, Mason had begun to see their true colors. Although they often asked for money, he had been making a conscious effort to refuse. Recently, he had even started to assert himself more with his mother, especially in response to her spiteful comments like, "You don't like me, do you?" Or "Why should I be nice to such an uncharming daughter-in-law?" Mason stood his ground. "Just because you're my mother, doesn't mean you can speak badly of Nancy." "Didn't she just answer your question honestly?" "You're taking Nancy's side," his mother exclaimed, shocked. "What are you talking about?" "I think you're in the wrong here, Mom," Mason said firmly. "That's so unfair," she retorted, her voice full of indignation. "Surely Nancy must have poisoned your mind against me." "Poor thing, you were such a kind child before you got married." Mason, unwavering, responded, "I'm not saying this because of Nancy. I'm saying it because I truly believe it." His mother, clearly taken aback by his firm stance, was not used to being contradicted. Frustrated, she bit her lower lip before muttering, "Fine," and storming out of the house. "Nancy, I'm sorry," Mason said softly after a moment. "I always make you feel uncomfortable." Mason apologized once his mother had left. "No, it's okay," I reassured him. "Hey, you stood up for us this time." I smiled at him, trying to ease the tension. "Once we build our own home, we'll be further away. Maybe then we can minimize our interactions with your mom and sister." "That would be a relief," Mason agreed, sounding genuinely grateful. The location we were considering for our new house was significantly farther from our current apartment, but that distance would also make our commutes easier. Currently, our apartment was just 4 train stations away from Mason's parents' house, but the new house would be 3 times farther, requiring several transfers. The route was complicated, so unless we gave them the address, it was unlikely they would be able to find it. This move seemed like a perfect opportunity to distance ourselves from the constant, often uncomfortable family interactions. We submitted our floor plan ideas to the construction company, and 3 months later, construction began. About 8 months after that, our $800,000 dream home was completed. We managed to carve out some time from our busy schedules to pack a few days before the move. Then, in the midst of packing, I received a call from my mother-in-law. I put her on speakerphone while I continued to pack. "Hello?" I greeted her. "When are you moving? You bought a house, right?" "I want to live with you," she blurted out, her voice unusually high-pitched and catching me off guard. In the background, I could hear Anna, my sister-in-law, chuckling. "That's great. We can make Nancy work for us every day." "Mom, you came up with a good idea," Anna snickered. "Do they think I can't hear them?" It was clear they were planning to freeload off our move, imagining an easy life at our expense. Honestly, I had no intention of living with them, and I knew Mason felt the same way. But talking about our new house with them might have given them the impression that we'd all be living together. The idea that Mason could be colluding with them worried me, but I was determined not to let them dictate our lives. It seemed like they were trying to manipulate the situation to their advantage. If that was their plan, I had to stay one step ahead. I informed them of our moving date, and immediately, my mother-in-law and Anna responded with their demands. "We'll come to your apartment in the afternoon on that day. Take us with you in the car and arrange the movers for us too," they demanded, before hanging up. Of course, I had no intention of fulfilling their requests. Before I could discuss this with Mason, I turned around and found him already standing there. "Mason, were you listening?" I asked, a bit caught off guard by his presence. "I was about to take a break and talk to you about this," he said. "Was that Mom on the phone just now?" "Yes," I replied, a little apprehensive. "I was going to talk to you about that too." "Why did you tell your mother about our new home?" I was taken aback. "What do you mean?" I asked, surprised. Mason sighed and explained, "It's not quite like that. Last time my mom visited, she saw the floor plan of our new house lying around. She's been pestering me about it every day since, so I eventually gave in." "I'm sorry," he added quickly, his voice full of regret. "You don't think I intend to live with them, do you?" "Of course not, Mason," I reassured him, seeing the genuine concern in his eyes. "After hearing that phone call, though, I think it might be better if we cut ties with them. It's just too much." Mason's expression darkened, and for the first time, I saw him more furious than I had ever seen before. It was a relief, in a way, he was on my side. He went on to explain that his mother had shown a surprising interest in the layout of our new home, pretending to casually inquire while bombarding him with questions about the number of rooms, the size, and all the details. It was clear she had been trying to find a way in, and this conversation only solidified our resolve. We both agreed it was time to set boundaries and protect our new life together from unwanted intrusions. I had reached my limit with his mother's overbearing behavior. She had caused enough chaos in our lives, and it was finally time to turn the page. We were ready to settle this issue once and for all. So, the day of the move arrived. Mason and I arranged for the movers to transport our belongings in the morning, and we drove to our new home. By the time we finished unloading and arranging everything, it was already past 2 p.m. We sat down to take a break, and that's when we checked our phones and found dozens of missed calls from my mother-in-law. "She called me too," Mason said, his voice tinged with exhaustion. Just then, like clockwork, the phone rang again. I answered it, leaving the speakerphone on. "Hello?" I said. "Nancy, where are you? I told you I'd be at the apartment this afternoon, didn't I?" "Yes, you did say that," I replied, keeping my tone calm. "So, what can I do for you?" "What do you mean? You didn't arrange for the movers?" "I've been waiting at home, and not a single truck has shown up. I had to come to your apartment myself." "Well, that's too bad," I said coolly. "You know, I didn't arrange for any movers." "What? That's not the agreement. Where is your new house?" she demanded, flustered. "Do you think I'd tell you?" I countered firmly. There was a stunned silence on the other end. I could almost hear her processing the fact that things had changed. She probably thought, as long as Mason was involved, she could manipulate the situation in her favor. But Mason had changed. He was now firmly by my side. I took a deep breath, my frustration building, and continued, "Just so you know, neither Mason nor I have any intention of living with you two. From now on, please stay out of our lives." "What are you saying? Your opinion doesn't matter. It's up to Mason to decide. At least tell me where the new house is," she demanded, her voice growing shrill. "How are you going to get here without even knowing the address?" I retorted. "This house is in my name, and I have the right to decide who lives here. If you barge in, it's trespassing." My mother-in-law was taken aback by my assertiveness. And the silence that followed spoke volumes. It was clear that the dynamics had shifted. Mason and I were taking control of our lives. "And I'll sue you if you trespass," I added, my voice steady and resolute. Her response was incredulous. "Trespassing? How rude to say that about your husband's family." At that, Mason intervened, his tone sharper than I had ever heard before. "Family? The family member I respected, my father, is gone. What remains now doesn't resemble the family I once knew." "What are you saying?" my mother-in-law faltered, her voice shaking with disbelief. "After that last phone call, I've had enough. Just sharing blood with you is embarrassing. From now on, my family is Dave and Nancy," Mason declared firmly. "I no longer consider you two part of my family."